Gachiakuta, episode 17, Memories of a Mediocrity. This definitely gave us more backstory on Zanka, and I'm glad we got it. So let's talk about it. Welcome back, Event. So we were talking about episode 17, Memories of Mediocrity, and this is where we find out more about how Zanka kind of came to be. And we see that Zanka and Jabba were going at it. Obviously, Zanka got, and there's no way around it. So we end up finding out more about his backstory and where he came from. He ended up coming from the Nijuku clan, and he has an older brother and sister who are part of something called the Hell Guard. And now I'm not sure exactly what the Hell Guard does, but the Hell Guard is set up to where they, defend, and they take care of business, I guess, within their community. And their community is inside of this big kind of bunker looking thing with several ventilation fans, and it looked like it's a very well protected city. It's got kind of the old school feel with like the kind of like the temples and kind of the shrine pagoda kind of looking buildings. So everything's good, and we find out that Zanka is like a noble. He is like one of the top kids with top marks, and he is just like the one to beat, this school year. And apparently, there's a new girl in class. There could be some competition for Zanka. We hear it talked about, but again, we don't know. We gotta wait till we see, what's going on with her. So they hit the intro and they show off. After the intro, they show off the golden throne. This is where you get to sit, is reserved for the best student of the year. Gets to sit in this golden throne. Now we see that this new kid, and we didn't get her name until later. I think her name is Hyo, so HYO, and she beats every student in a sparring session, like back to back. It looks like, and she got every one of them the same way, like cut on the neck. And she's using like what looks to be like a wooden blade, kind of dagger thing or whatever. And she just gets nuts, just bam, that's a little abrasion right there on the neck. And she got everybody, and she's standing there over Zonka, and she's got Zonka hemmed up. He's the last one, and as they're running through everybody. So basically being tired out and then going against the best, which is Zonka at the time, and still beating him, what seems to be effortlessly by the looks of it, because he was unable to keep up. Like, yo, she's really good. So this gets everyone kind of talking big after the loss. Like, man, I could have beat her, that little beanpole. I could have beat her after, I knew her move. Once I learned her style, it's gonna be easy for me to beat her, so on and so forth. So everybody just kind of yakety yak talking that smack, while Zonka's, actually praises. It's like, wow, she really can fight. That was kind of wild. But we see when he gets off to himself, it hurts. Yeah, he's frustrated. His head against the wall makes himself bleed. Like he's upset and he's frustrated because he's not able to beat her. He's not sure what's going on. So she ends up coming up to him because she's looking for water, and he's bleeding on his head. So she's like, hey, your nose is bleeding. She's talking to him kind of normal, and they get cleaned up. He's very nice and stuff in the process, and they're just kind of talking, and find out that she cares not for the golden throne. She's not worried about any of that stuff. She's just there to do what she got to do and move on. So that kind of gets Zonka starting to think and look in perspective, like kind of reflect, like, wow, how do I deal with this? How do I process this? But we see how everybody else in the class processes, and they do it differently. They start, going by, they start changing by imitation. Some try to adopt her look, and so at that cut her, cut their hair the way that her hair is cut. Some resort to thievery. How do you do this, or how do you, they're trying to, learn her moves or steal her abilities, skills, or whatever the case may be. And then the other ones who can't do any of that end up leading with disparaging comments. You ain't nothing, or I could beat her, or whatever. She's not that good, so on and so forth. So it ends up moving on to weapon selection, and see, everybody is going to go choose a weapon, and Zonka ends up choosing the least appealing weapon. So the same staff he has now, he ends up choosing, that weapon, and everyone else is choosing maces and daggers and swords and whatever case may be. And even Hyo ends up, taking a pretty ordinary, plain looking katana. But everyone else has got these super kind of a little bit shinier, cleaned up, you know, big bludgeoning weapons or big slicing weapons. So it's a different dynamic for for the best student in the class to take what apparently is the crappiest weapon. And Zanka ends up kind of thinking about that, and he actually crawls into a hole, this old well, and he's disparaging himself about how he's the crappiest of the crappy, and he's using a bit more colorful words, but that's what he's talking about the entire time. That's why he chose a crappy weapon, because he's a crappy person. He's crappy because he's not able to live up to it. And you have somebody who's sitting up there. So there's a man and a young woman who are sitting outside the well, and they're talking to him like, "You've been in there for a while. Like it's been like 3 days." And they're just talking to him and kind of help. I won't say hyping him up, but just kind of let him know like this ain't over. Like you can bounce back from this kind of thing. And come to find out, as they get up to start to walk away, we see that it's actually Engine and Rio. So Engine is dressed in, I guess, the garb for that particular area and not his usual stuff. So that's why you didn't notice who he was at first until he took off his hat. So I was like, all right, cool. Bad as a callback. So that's one of the reasons why he's so inspired by Engine and he looks up to Engine. So that he's one of the ones that helped kind of pull him out of that hole, so to speak. Now we don't know what happens much after that, because we go back to present day. We see Zanka starts to rise, and he starts to summon his lovely assist staff, which is what it said in the caption. So his staff, he calls a staff to him, but it turns out that he's actually hallucinating, because again he did get stabbed at the end of it, and he is kind of going through his head, and Jabber is back there dancing like he's busting a move, he's grooving, he's chilling and stuff like that, and he is laughing his butt off. He was like, I hope you was gonna be a better challenge for me, but turns out that's not the case. So he's sitting there and he's talking to Zonka. Zonka starts to kind of go more into the hallucination, looks like, and Jabber's just laughing there with him. So Jabber lays down next to him, even though his ribs are messed up and it hurts to laugh, and he's laughing hysterically right there with him. And he's just going nuts. Like it's maddening. And we end up cutting to Guida Heavy, who's searching for the others. So she's crawling through some pipes, and she ends up finding something. It looks like a giant heart or something. I don't know, some kind of core, something, but it's got several severed hands holding weapons that's surrounding it. So that like they're just kind of stabbed into it or sitting onto it, whatever. Like they tried to, attack it, and they got their hand removed, I guess, in the process, not sure. But that's just what Guida finds, and we end up cutting back to Jabber, who is dragging Zonka's body away through some cave, and that's where it ends. It's like, holy crap! Like, what is happening? How is this going to transpire for Zonka? Is he going to be able to recover? Because again, he thrived on rising above the mediocrity, which was kind of the title episode. So that's kind of where it kind of came from when he kind of got his renewed sense back when Engine talked to him and kind of coming up. So that's kind of what you see him kind of talk about. So where are we going from this? Like, is he going to be able to recover? Is somebody going to have to save him? What's happening with Zanka? I don't know. I love Zanka. I want to see, but I also want to know who is Zanka's older siblings, because he's got two older siblings that are in the Hell Guard apparently, and they are pretty notable in the Hell Guard, because he was already coming in off praise alone. So the fact is, he's as good as he is, you know, hey, siblings probably had something to do with that, or he looked up to them to where he was kind of in that same boat. So that's all I got for this week. We gotta wait till next week to catch it and see what's going on. So make sure you hit the little subscribe button. Again, appreciate each and every one of y'all. Hey, it's me, Will, freaking, and I will catch you guys in the next one.